Hi, I'm Mark Acosta, Assistant Metro Editor here at the Press Enterprise and PE.com. We're here coming to you from the Temecula office of the Press Enterprise to talk a little bit about Measure D, which is on the ballot for June 7th in the city of Wildomar, correct? I'm here with reporter John Hill, who covers Wildomar for us. So John, let's talk a little bit about parks in Wildomar. Measure D, how did it come about? Isn't it the case that the parks were at one time closed and locked up in Wildomar?
That's right. The parks, Wildomar's got 3 parks, and they were closed for 7 years, actually, up until they were actually physically padlocked until 2000.
They were locked up. You couldn't go play in a park.
Right, and you know, weeds growing, the whole 9 yards. So in 2006, Wildomar voters approved a tax, $28 a year for every residential home in the city, excluding one neighborhood called the Farm. And for a couple of years, that funded maintenance of the parks.
So that tax reopened the parks.
Right, right. The former district that ran the parks actually went bankrupt, more or less, and the voters in 1999 rejected a park tax, so they shut them down. In 2006, they approved a new tax, opened them back up. For a couple of years there, the parks were open and being funded by that tax.
So they voted to open the parks. So why are we here again, voting again to open the parks?
Well,
they closed it. What happened in between?
The courts have ruled that the tax was illegal, more or less. That the tax charged people across the city for something that was not providing everyone an equal benefit. So someone who lives 5 miles away from the park was not getting the same benefit as someone who lived right next door to the park, but they were having to pay the same cost. And under the specific tax, the taxing structure that they were using, that was not allowed.
I see. So that brought us to this point where they had to then put it on the ballot again, basically. Right.
Essentially, they're doing it in a different way now. They're to get around the issue with the first tax. So they're forming what's called a community facilities district, also known by most people as a Mello-Roos tax. And every property in the city would have to pay. In the first year, they're saying they're going to set it at $23 a year. So every single property, commercial, industrial, anything, is going to have to pay that tax if it's approved.
So are you for or against the park closing?
I'm for keeping it open.
Okay. And why would you?
Because I think the community needs it, the kids need it, they have sports here, we bring our dogs here. It's really nice too, it's one of the nicer things in the area.
Right. So in election season here, what are the both sides saying? What are the people in favor of Measure D saying? And can you summarize what those opposed to Measure D
Sure. Well, the people who are in favor obviously want to keep the parks open. They say the city officials have said that they don't have the money if the tax isn't approved. They don't have the money to keep the parks open. They don't have the money to mow the lawns, to keep the water on, to keep the lights on, that sort of thing. So people who are in favor of it say, look, it's $23 a year. That's a small amount to pay for parks in our city where our kids play and where we go to get exercise and that sort of thing.
I don't want to close because it's not because it's clean. It's quiet around here and it's like nice for kids. So we're cool if they open. So I like to be open.
It's really it's my second time being here. It's really cool. I like it a lot. It's pretty big. It's nice. I like it.
People who are against it say, look, it's a new tax. It's charging more people than the old tax. The old tax only charged some homeowners, most homeowners, but only some. And now we're charging every property, and we're still in a really bad economic time. And that the city should, while they don't necessarily want the parks to close, the city should find other ways to fund
some other way.
Fund the
so what are backers of Measure D saying would occur if this loses on June 7th? What does the future look like if it loses?
Well, they're saying that the parks could close again, and like I said, they were closed for 7 years before that. So that's still fresh in people's minds, and they're saying they actually have already started contacting companies to get bids on dismantling and selling the parks equipment.
The playground stuff and all
that. Yeah, they might actually have to physically take that stuff out, put up fences, and do all that sort of
Now, if it were to pass, is there any inkling of whether there might be a future legal challenge, or might that...
I haven't heard that yet. This seems to be on a stronger legal footing than the last one, although because it is a community facilities district, needs 2/3 voter approval, not just a simple majority like the last one. And that's going to be tough because the last tax passed in 2006 in much better economic climate got 56% of the vote. So even that tax didn't get 2/3.
Barely got by.
And the parks were actually physically closed there, and it was still fresh in people's minds. Now,
the economy being what it is now.
Yeah, so. now it's going to be tough.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens on June 7th. So make sure to read John's story in the Press Enterprise and on PE.com about this whole Wildomar Park situation and Measure D, and we'll be keeping everybody apprised of what's going on with this all the way up until election night. Thanks for watching.